Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to the video. This is a paid request for Bjorn. Thank you so much for that. Really appreciate it. For those interested in requesting any type of videos, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal. I'll get to it as soon as I can. I also have a Patreon and a CashApp because people have asked about those. And it could be for any random topic, tier list, ranking, video game playthrough for an hour, full playthrough, movie review, re-review, commentary, reaction, whatever the case may be. Feel free, and like I said, I'll get to it as soon as I can. And this is for Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves, the, at this point, final of this series of films. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, Honey, I Blew Up the Kid. I know there was talk of doing another one, like a reboot called Shrink or Shrunk or whatever. And Rip Moranis supposedly was going to come out of retirement to do it, because he obviously has some affection with this character. Maybe because it's really the only franchise he got to star in. Now, he was in Ghostbusters, but he wasn't the star. He was a great part of it, but he was, fifth, sixth, seventh bill, however you want to put it. He had made films like Big Bully and Club Paradise and Little Shop of Horrors, but they were one-offs. But this did become a franchise where you had very popular first film, then you had a sequel that did pretty decent business. You had a TV show, which I'm surprised he was in the TV show with how much he likes these projects. But now this one came out in 1997. Now I read up that at one point they were thinking of putting this in theaters, but no. Like this, it's not a movie theater worthy film. I didn't hate this film, but it does come off as like a Disney Channel movie. At least with the look of the film, the production values, the effects, the way certain shots of the house, the interiors are shot. It does look like a Disney Channel film. It does. And I guess this became the first live-action direct-to-video flick for, at least for Disney. I could be wrong on that, but there were direct-to-video films, but I think this was the first live-action direct-to-video film. I didn't, for Disney, that is. I could be wrong on that, but the interesting thing about this movie is directed by Dean Cundey. Now, if that name sounds familiar, this is a guy who was the cinematographer, the director of photography for many John Carpenter films like The Thing and Halloween and The Fog. He'd worked with Robert Zemeckis. He worked with so many people as a director of photography. He also has the most boring commentaries and interviews, because he's in a lot of special features, and he does a great job with his photography. But he's not the most interesting guy to listen to. I'm sorry, but I'm just being honest. But he seems like a nice guy. He does seem like a nice guy. But this might have been the only time he got to direct. It was definitely the first time, but it might have been the only time. And to be honest, you would think it was at least be a good looking movie. But like I said, it just looks like something that would have been on Disney Channel. There's really nothing of note to mention the look of the film in terms of the lighting or camera work. And again, you would think Dean Cundey would bring a little bit to that for his directorial debut, but I don't know. Maybe just... And I think this had, what, a $7 million budget, if that? So maybe just inexperience. I don't know. Maybe just didn't have much to work with. It is a short film. I'll give it that. It's like an hour and 10 minutes. So there's that at least. Rip Moranis comes back. He's the only guy that comes back. I'm sure they were surprised he came back. For what I understand, if he didn't come back, it would have been about Stuart Payton, who's in the film, who plays Rip Moranis' brother. It would have been about him and his wife, and they get shrunk. But I would say The reason I don't hate the film is I think at the end of the day it's rather harmless. At least for me, it's very short. It's pretty straightforward, and I like Rick Moranis. I think if Rick Moranis wasn't in this, I would probably take a dump on this movie too. But I like Rick Moranis, and this was the last film he did. As far as I know, this is the last movie Rick Moranis ever did, at least live action. Because I think he did voice work later, but live action wise, this is the last one he was in. Yeah, didn't he do voices in Open Rain? What was that one? Martin Lawrence and Ashton Kutcher, the animated film Open Rain. I forget what the hell it was called. Someone will say in the comments, but yeah, I think he did voice work for that. But yeah, live action. This is the last we get to see him. No Marcia Strassman coming back as his wife, which she was still alive at this point. Sadly, she's passed away, but she was alive at this point. But I guess either they couldn't afford her, or she's like, nah, two of them are good enough for me. None of the kids come back. It's explained they're all off at college or somewhere else. The kid from Honey, I Blew Up the Kid, that character is grown up. And I get it, it's supposed to be some time has passed, but it looks nothing like the kid in Honey, I Blew Up the Kid. Like, in terms of the hair and the color of the hair, like, it took me a minute to go, is that who that's supposed to be? Well, they said the name, okay, I guess so, but, like, you looked at the two kids side by side, they look nothing alike, at least to me. And, like, from the get-go, you tell this is a much cheaper film with... Sometimes the blocking, or some stuff reminds me of a sitcom. And even some of the ideas, like one of the primary causes of what happens is a giant TT man. A giant TT man, and Rick Moranis is told to throw it out, but he wants to shrink it. And then lo and behold, him and his brother, they try to shrink it, and whoops, the ball falls from the ceiling because of the rattling, and it shrinks them. And then the wives come in, and the ball falls again, and it shrinks them as well. So the four of them are shrunk. And you tell they went back to the well for this, because Honey, I Blew Up the Kid made some money, but did not make nearly as much as the first. And so they thought, well, we gotta go with the shrinking stuff again. We gotta go with the shrinking stuff again. We gotta go with what made the first one a hit. So there is stuff that is done in here that is very familiar. The scene where the kid is in the cereal bowl, please don't eat me. Here it's Rick Moranis and the brother character in onion dip. And they're trying to get the dip, and they're trying to voice so they don't get eaten. In the first film, there's this aunt, and it becomes their friend. In this case, it's a daddy long legs that they get out of some web, and then they're able to... It helps them go up this cabinet they need to go to. Granted, it's for the lesser cost, the special effects, they're not the best. They're not going to be on par with the first, obviously. You can tell it's cheaper effects. The background's a bit more blurry. And especially there's a scene when, after they get shrunk, they use this fishing reel to lower themselves down. And you can tell that, yeah, this is a lot cheaper production value. But I guess I'm being more lenient on this, because it was nice as a fan of the first film, and not minding the second film. It was nice to see Rick Moranis get more into the predicament. As shallow as that is a reason, I remember I saw this once back in the day and went, oh, okay. Like, yeah, didn't mind it. Because, oh wow, Rip Brands actually has a bit more to do. Because in the other films, it's just him looking for the kids or him chasing after the big kid. And here, the fact that now he's shrunk, so he's having to deal with all this. He knows how, his kids felt in the first. Just something about that was appealing. I didn't mind Stuart Pankin. I liked him as an actor. He was the police officer in Arachnophobia. He's been in a few other films as well, but I do like that actor. So I thought he worked well as the brother character. You have a couple weird scenes early on. Like apparently, Rip Brands is the president of this company, and his brother, he's more of the guy that can relate to people and explain things better. And they're trying to have this thing about they want to make workers safe, so make them glow. And it's like they drink this stuff, but it only glows in the stomach. So they lift their shirts up, and I don't know what's going on. It's not in the bloodstream. It's only in the stomach, and their stomachs are glowing. Something about that just... I don't know why. Just something about that was just a bit weird to me. And then as they get shrunk, it goes from them dealing with their predicament to the kids of Stuart Pankin and his wife and the one kid of Rip Moranis and his wife. They're partying around the house. Some people are invited, some girls. Some boys invite themselves in. And like I say, each time it cut to the kids, it felt like an iCarly or whatever the hell, Drake and Josh. It felt like one of those Disney sitcoms. Again, the way it looked, the way it was shot, the actors. In fact, actually, one of the girls, I think it's Mila Kunis, a very young Mila Kunis. And another one is Allison Mack, who would be in the TV show Smallville. She'd be into something else, which I'll get to. Because there's a big piece of irony in this fucking movie. But yeah, as they're shrunk, because it's such a short film, because they only have so much for a budget. I mean, I've seen much worse looking movies in terms of the effects. It's definitely not up to par with the first two. But yeah, I said that it made sense why this didn't go into theaters. I will say the effects do look cheap, but I think they did, I guess, what they could with what they had. Again, maybe I'm being too lenient on it. Whether it be they gotta climb this chair or whatever, they get to the window. Again, their fishing reel, when they reel themselves down, those effects definitely look a bit wonky. Probably the big set piece is the Hot Wheels bit, with the four of them getting this Hot Wheel car that goes around the track. Like, right, each time it's an up close, you tell like this big blurry background, and it's like they knew it didn't look that great, so it doesn't hone in on them that much. Like when it cuts to them and the four of them, it's not there for a good chunk of time, as if they knew this doesn't look that great, so go back to that as little as possible and have the wider shot of the Hot Wheels. I like the idea behind it. I like the idea of the characters going through a Hot Wheels contraption. Whether you want to call it a product placement or not, I still like the idea behind it. Then at one point they fall down to the hamper. At one point they're attacked by a roach and they lead it to one of those things where it goes in, it's very sticky, and Rip Moranis saves his wife. At one point there's these bubbles and they go into the bubbles to kind of float themselves down as the wives and the husbands split up. The husbands are going to rework the stereo to talk to the kids, while the wives, they need to get to this medicine because one of the kids needs their medicine. They're trying to find a way to get to it and try to let them know we're here. and the wives meet the daddy long legs. So if you're a fan of spiders, this is definitely a movie for you because they treat that as a good guy. Now, I don't like spiders, but I will say daddy long legs, they don't bother me because they're just so thin and so innocent looking. And like, if there's a spider I'll deal with, daddy long legs is one. It's like, okay, you know, the big, you know, well, the poisonous ones, hell yeah. The thicker ones, yeah, that bothers me too. The black ones, whew, yeah. But if it's like, you know, almost like you barely see it, you know, little cute thing, got a little head, it's like, okay, fine, you know, just leave me alone, just fuck off. But they don't bother me much. So yeah, daddy long legs, I don't mind. One right there, no, I'm just. But like if one's like, oh, it's right here, it's like, okay, I'd rather just pick it up and you go outside, have plenty of food out there. So I didn't mind that. Like I said, it's obviously trying to recreate not to any near of the effect of the ant in the first movie, but you know, I still didn't mind it for what it was. I thought the daddy long legs stuff was cute for what it needed to be. I did miss Marcia Strassman. I do wish she was in this. I do, because it is weird to see Rick Moranis there, but then the wife character played by a different actress is weird for continuity's sake. I could not find why she did not do it. Because like I said, she was alive at this point, but I don't know if she said no or if they didn't want to give her the money. So it just, I do wish it was Marcia Strassman to keep with that continuity. I think that would have been nice. I just think she was a better wife. This girl was there. Like, this actress was there. She was no Marcia Strassman. So I think that was one negative I have with the film is I wish the original actress returned. I do. I thought she worked really well with Rick Moranis in the first two films. So, and this girl, it's there. Like, I don't hate her, but not nearly as well with the chemistry that Marcia and Rick had in the first two. So yeah, I didn't mind Stuart Pankin. It was cool to see Rick Moranis, if I learn how to talk. Rip. For some reason, I did a turntable on myself. Nice to see him in the thick of things. Obviously, they don't have a whole lot they go through because they don't have the budget for it. You know, just a couple things, but still. It's very short, so it's not... I didn't think it was too boring. Other than when it goes to the kids and them partying, which I didn't give a rat's ass about the kids. I find it hilarious that there's a bit where one of the boys tries to kiss Allison Mack. And I guess you could say this is progressive because she stops him and gives him this whole speech about consent. You know, maybe I would have liked it, but you need to give consent, and gives this big, humongous speech about it, lecturing the person, which I did get. Okay, that's progressive. That's ahead of its time. You didn't see a whole lot of movies do that. It's just very ironic that Allison Mack is saying that because later she'd be part of a damn sex cult or trafficking women cult or whatever the hell that cult was. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Allison Mack, again, she was an actress that would later be in Smallville. I know Michael Rosenbaum on his podcast talked about her in this weird bit where her and her friends went into his house and wanted stuff and like eat his food, and he's like, "The hell you guys doing? Get the hell out." Probably his first inclination that something was up. But yeah, some weird cult she joined where involved trafficking women and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, how ironic. Maybe you should have listened to your damn character in this movie. Consent, bitch. Consent. I guess she only learned the cunt part. But no, consent. Not cunt. But, she is one. But everything works out. They get the stereo working. They talk to them. They get found out. They get unshrunk. Everything's fine. And then the movie's over. I also find it funny they don't have the dog. Like in the first two, they had a dog. There is no dog in this movie. So there's no dog in the family, which I thought was weird. What, they couldn't afford a dog either? You only have Rick Moranis coming back. The production value's a lot cheaper. A lot of it's piggybacking on what they did in the first film in terms of, like I said, oh, remember Ant? Well, here's Daddy Longlegs. Remember the cereal bit? Now here's the onion dip bit. So what I call this a good film? No. But did I hate it? No. Like I say, I thought it was fairly harmless. There wasn't a whole lot of juvenile fart joke and stuff. It depends how much you like Rick Moranis. I guess honestly, like to me, I like him quite a bit. It's nice to see him in a lead role. Doesn't mean I love every film he stars in, but it was nice to see him play the character one more time. Granted, the dialogue, the script, there's not a whole lot to work with, but like I said, it's sure enough that it wasn't an inconvenience to watch. I do think the first two are better. Even the second film. Some may say they like this one more because it's more of the shrinking stuff, and I would still say I'd rather watch the second film. The first one is definitely the best. And honestly, you just say you only needed one film. I don't think this needed a trilogy of movies, let alone a short-lived TV show. And it doesn't need a revival, reboot, legacy sequel. None of those things it needs. Just leave it alone. Yeah. I guess if you're a diehard fan of the films, or a diehard Rick Moranis fan, that's probably the only two reasons you would watch this film. Other than that, like I say, it's harmless. You do a lot worse, you do a lot better. I didn't hate the film, I didn't love the film. It was a time waster. And take that for what you will. Thanks for watching, we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.